In the first row, chosen by a draw. On the pole in the orange car is NASCAR driver Ricky Rudd alongside Dale Earnhardt in the teal car. In row 2, the green machine is Al Unser Jr., the IndyCar champion. And alongside is Steve Millen, who is a rookie representing road racing. In the third row, in the lime green car, Scott Pruitt, a road racer. And the powder blue car is Rusty Wallace from NASCAR. In row 4, the dark blue car is Mark Martin from NASCAR. And in the cream car, another NASCAR veteran, Ken Schrader. In row number 5, the red car is Hurley Haywood of road racing. The yellow car, another road racer, Tom Kendall. And then in the 6th and final row, the white car, the only short track representative ever in the IROC, Steve Kinzer. And alongside in the pink car, representing the NASCAR stock cars, is Jeff Gordon. This is the look up from the last position in the field, a position that some feel may in fact have an advantage all the way through the other rows. Keep an eye on that front row. Keep an eye on the outside, Dale Earnhardt. And watch, too, Unser Jr. in the green car in the second row, who's always destined to make an early move. You're on board with Little Al. The green is out. IROC 19 is underway as Little Al moves inside of Earnhardt. Comes up and gives Rudd a little bit of a bump. Moving up toward top speed now, though they really don't hit it until they come off the last turn. Al Unser Jr. tucked in behind Ricky Rudd. Scott Pruitt has moved in behind Al Unser Jr. as they come to the backside.
Dale Earnhardt is known for his great starts. This time he got a very poor start. He's all the way back to 5th spot as the cars touch down the back straightaway.
It was an amazingly slow start for an IROC race, and it shuffled the field quite considerably.
Mark Martin closing in there in 4th place. Scott Pruitt representing road racing as the Trans Am champion, though this year in the IndyCar. Looking solid in 3rd. Then Al Unser Jr. from IndyCars. Ricky Rudd is out in front as Little Al darts out to the inside.
Great Scott Pruitt with him.
Pruitt in that lime green car, second on the screen there, won this race unexpectedly in 1991. Pruitt's hot here.
Pruitt gets a little help from Earnhardt as all three darted out, and that brings Earnhardt up into 3rd place. Now they go 3 wide.
Oh, and almost making contact off the second corner. Earnhardt and Ricky Rudd.
Earnhardt comes drifting down across the front of Rudd. Now it's Pruitt moving to the inside, Earnhardt to the outside.
Pruitt going up the hill, taking Al Jr. with him. And meanwhile, on the inside comes Hurley Haywood in the red car.
Unbelievable. The road racer Haywood down on the inside gets a little help from Mark Martin, and he is competitive, having moved up from 9th place.
Our spotting report had Hurley Haywood at a sprint car race as a spectator in St. Augustine last night. Maybe he's picked up some of the enthusiasm of wheel-to-wheel competition.
They are winning the corner 3 abreast. This is from Al Unser Jr.'s car, looking back at Dale Earnhardt in the teal Avenger.
Earnhardt down, working the low side there. Haywood lined up behind.
This is an extraordinary drive for Haywood, who has never been a front runner in the IROCs. He's asked back year after year, but his experience in long-distance racing does not stand in well in this kind of hot competition.
Back from 2nd place, Al Unser Jr. Pruitt is the leader.
We'll see Rusty Wallace in the powder blue car back about 6th place, caught on the inside, but shuffles back up in front of Kenny Schrader.
Schrader, a rookie in IROC competition, hardly a rookie in this kind of racing. Let him in.
Now Unser Jr. goes for the lead, takes Earnhardt with him as they move around Scott Pruitt. Look at Al Unser Jr.'s car. We don't normally see the car looking that unstable here.
Meantime, Jeff Gordon, you see him in the pink car right there in the center of the screen. He is now up to 5th, and remember, he started last. He's the youngest driver in the race and the youngest driver ever to race in IROC.
Rusty Wallace out alone down low as you're on board with Jeff Gordon, who is beginning to move up through this field.
Right now, Gordon is on the outside, needs some help on the outside to get to the front.
And he's got just the guy there, Rusty Wallace, with a lot of experience. Wallace won 3 consecutive IROC races a couple of years ago en route to the championship.
So in the IROC, it's Al Unser Jr. out in front of Dale Earnhardt, and the battle of IROC 19 is underway.
ESPN Classics 3 Days of 3 is presented by Martin Scorsese's The Aviator, in theaters everywhere this Christmas.
Ladies and gentlemen, Howard Hughes.
He saw the future.
Let's build a plane that flies above the weather, across the country, across the world.
If you do that, you could lose everything.
Well, I won't.
He lived the dream.
You like a little adventure? Who y'all was, Mr. Hughes?
I have heard some disquieting rumors about Mr. Hughes. I'd like to know everything there is to know.
My investigators have turned up a lot of dirt.
We are in a street fight, and I'm not going to lose. He owns Pan Am. He owns Congress. But he does not own the sky.
Beyond the wealth.
You want me to bribe senators?
I don't want them bribed, Jack. I want them bought.
Something drove him.
You have called me a liar and a thief.
Beyond the legend.
Federal warrant.
They are touching things.
Is the truth behind the man.
I'll get a doctor. No one sees him like this.
Sometimes I truly fear that I'm losing my mind.
A Martin Scorsese picture. Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Blanchett, Kate Beckinsale, Alec Baldwin.
She'll go faster.
The Aviator. Rated PG-13. Everywhere Friday, December 17th.
This Friday through Sunday, Zales is having the biggest sale of the season, where you can save up to 50%. Plus, take up to an extra $200 off every piece of jewelry in the store. This Friday through Sunday at Zales, the Diamond Store.
Back at Daytona, where Al Unser Jr. is the leader. He has led in the last 6 IROC races here at Daytona. But Dale Earnhardt has been down on the inside trying to contest that. Scott Pruitt closing in behind Little Al. These two IndyCar drivers, we get a bump, seem to be working together and recognize that if they're going to take on a 6-car NASCAR contingent, they're going to have to work together.
Earnhardt tried to go on the inside going in turn 3. It did not work for him. He lost the draft, and he's fallen back to mid-pack.
Benny, talking to the drivers, they say these cars are more sensitive to drive than they were last year. There are only 3 men in the race that are rookies. That's Millen, Schrader, and Gordon. The rest of them have that experience from last year, but say they're just a little harder to drive. They're faster, too.
They are much faster. Here we go once again. Rudd and Rusty Wallace on the bottom of the racetrack trying to get to the front. This is from inside Jeff Gordon's car.
Both Rudd and Wallace work down inside Schrader, but Wallace gets caught out as Gordon closes up on Schrader.
Kenny Schrader there, you see him right ahead of Gordon, is driving a terrific race in that cream-colored car. Remember, he's a rookie. He was just tickled to death to be invited to race the IROC cars, and he's doing really well.
Al Unser Jr. is amazing about anything. You have to consider the disciplines here. Al Unser Jr., the reigning IndyCar champion. Scott Pruitt is here because of his Trans Am championship last year, but of course is in IndyCars this year. Still, his representation here is as a road racer.
Well, there's something in the Unser genes that makes them good at IROC. Remember that both Al's uncle Bobby and his dad, Big Al, won IROC championships as well. So these guys really get after it in this series.
A race for the lead.
Pruitt goes for the lead. Ricky Rudd helps him. Kenny Schrader comes down. That puts Earnhardt up behind Al Unser Jr., but it puts Pruitt solidly into the lead. And this may leave Ken Schrader out.
But for all those changes, Benny, it's incredible, isn't it, that we're seeing what we saw last year in race after race, this incredible, intense competition, which just goes on lap after lap. The last 10 races here at Daytona, the biggest margin of victory has been a car length.
And a race for the lead. Ricky Rudd started on the pole. He's trying to get back. Meanwhile, he's side by side with Scott Pruitt, but Rudd needs some drafting help. He doesn't have him.
Now Pruitt gets a little help from Al Unser Jr. right now. Not just drafting help, but a little assistance for top end. Gets it again.
There was a time, of course, where Pruitt looked like he might never drive again. That terrible IndyCar crash he had back in 1990. He made a recovery, a very brave recovery. One of the first races he did when he came back to racing was an IROC race, and he won right here, 91.
91. He led the final 7 laps to take the win. Now Pruitt with the help from Al Unser Jr. And Jr.'s going to try him. Jr. getting some help from Mark Martin. Earnhardt still very much in this battle, sitting outside Martin, and Jeff Gordon up behind Earnhardt.
See, that's what we're talking about by spotters, telling them that Earnhardt is on the outside, but no radios in the IROC car. These fellas have to go it on their own.
Looking forward from Gordon as they come past Martin, linked up with Earnhardt. There's Pruitt just ahead of Earnhardt, and the leader of the race, Al Unser Jr. now, as Pruitt gets caught out of line.
Boy, and look at Earnhardt's car move around. He's got to be doing a lot of steering to keep that thing straight.
And look how close Jeff Gordon is to the outside retaining wall. This is from the back of Dale Earnhardt's car looking back at Jeff Gordon. Now back inside on top of Jeff Gordon's car.
Now in the past, the scenario has been that the Winston Cup men sort of ganged up, I think, on Al Unser Jr. Now so far in this race, his attitude seems to have been stay out front as far as I can, stay with the lead group. But of course, we're not at the end of the race yet, when push really comes to shove.
And folks, you're right. When we have that in-car camera shot, you listen to the accelerator, they are not backing off the throttle. Every once in a while, just breathing the engine a little bit. Listen as they go in the corner, wide open.
A little more help from Earnhardt to Unser as you look back from Junior's car. So it's Al Unser Jr. that now leads Dale Earnhardt in a battle between NASCAR and IndyCar.
This is Bob. Seems to be a lot of rumors going around about this office Santa. That's because Bob made a call to Enzyte about natural male enhancement. And what did he get? Why, a sleigh full of confidence, a stocking full of pride, and the one thing that every lady likes, the joy of a gift that keeps on giving. Free samples of Enzyte available while supplies last. Call or visit forenzyte.com. Enzyte, the once-a-day tablet for natural male enhancement. This
Back at round one, IROC 19, and Dale Earnhardt, with a little help from Al Unser Jr. and Rusty Wallace, move up to the high side and around Jeff Gordon. He might be able to save fourth, but more than likely, he'll drop back in fifth place.
The greatest Winston Cup driver of our time, Dale Earnhardt, you see him there inside his car, leads the greatest IndyCar driver of our time, Al Unser Jr. A terrific battle. We thought it might come down to this, and so far, with the race about halfway over, it has.
We're just past the halfway point. There have been 9 lead changes among 4 different drivers at the halfway. Leader at the moment, Dale Earnhardt, but Al Unser Jr. now wants to challenge. You see, when he started to move out, he didn't get any help at all from Wallace, who just tucked right in behind.
That's right. He started to go, looked in his mirror. Rusty Wallace said, I'm not going with you, so he ducked back in behind Earnhardt.
Probably looked up in his mirror and saw Kenny just waving at him. How you doing, little Al? I'll stay here. Still the field very tightly bunched. The only car that's not in this bunch is Al Unser Jr. Now with some help from Rusty goes to the lead. And Steve Millen, the rookie.
And that's almost a teammate of his. Al Unser Jr. drives for Roger Penske. Rusty Wallace drives for Roger Penske. That's one reason that Rusty chose to go with Al Jr.
So 10 of the cars are still running all together. Early Haywood's car is still in the pits at a report of losing power, and Steve Millen, who's still going to school on the super speedway, is running well behind this group.
You know, Al Unser Jr. tested Rusty's car just a few weeks ago, not really with any thought of running it, but just to help out a little bit and get the feel of it.
Wallace down to the inside, and Al Unser Jr. trying to pick up help from somebody, and he gets it from Earnhardt.
This is the best seat I've ever had for an IROC race, and trust me, this is exciting. I've always watched it from the infield and really can't see all this action going on.
Benny, it's even tighter than when you ran it, isn't it?
Oh, it is much tighter.
Because the whole pack stays together, the whole field. This is just fabulous racing. Look at that.
And see the yellow car back about 7th spot? That's Tommy Kendall. He hit the wall coming off turn 4 last lap, and he didn't even check up, just kept going.
We can take a look at that. Watch Kendall, the yellow car.
Comes off the corner, goes up, smacks the wall, just keeps going.
The new air boxes, I think, have a little to do with the equal performance here. Look at how Al is getting bounced around, because before, when a car followed another one really closely like this, he would get some overheating and maybe lose a little horsepower. Now they're staying cooler in the engine department and staying right up there with them.
So Al Unser Jr. leads Dale Earnhardt, Mark Martin, and Scott Pruitt. Round number 1 of the IROC.
We sought to escape. On this day, we will spare no one.
Kill zone, rated M for mature.
Back in round number 1 of IROC 19. With Al Unser Jr. in front, Dale Earnhardt pursuing, Mark Martin leading Scott Pruitt from 3rd position. We have had green flag all the way. 1 car out of the race, Hurley Haywood, and 1 car, Tom Kendall, brushing the wall, but it didn't even slow him down. So we have had green flag racing all the way here at Daytona International.
Earnhardt is looking. He's trying his best to figure out how to get by Al Unser Jr. Not able to. Mark Martin, meanwhile, sitting back there riding in 3rd place. And here goes Earnhardt on the inside coming off the corner. I don't know if this is a good move or not, Sam.
This is, I think, at Benny's when you got to start trying a few things, but you also got to conserve your car a little bit, too. Look, have the long view. Look ahead to what you've got left at the end. You want to keep those tires cool, keep the car cool.
And Jeff Gordon slowing over on the backside. The problem is there. The thing that you have to keep track of in front, and the drivers certainly do, is the laps in the lead. Al Unser Jr. is way ahead on lead lap. Mark Martin, currently in 2nd place, found his way to an IROC championship just by being consistent and rolling up those lead laps.
And he's been consistent again today because we haven't heard the name Mark Martin too much, but look, with just a few laps to go, he's in 2nd spot.
He's right there.
And Earnhardt, that move that we said might not work for him, it didn't. He moved back to the 6th position.
Well, when Mark Martin won the IROC championship, he did so with a 4th place, a 1st, a last place, and a 2nd. Interesting that he was able to survive that last place and still eke out a championship win.
The leader is Al Unser Jr. representing IndyCar. 2nd place, that 7 car of Mark Martin, the dark blue, representing NASCAR. And back in 3rd place, representing road racing, is Scott Pruitt. Earnhardt now moves to the inside. Steve Kinzer attaches to the back of Earnhardt.
Pruitt is giving terrific account of himself. He will be debuting the Firestone tire in IndyCar competition this year. He's been doing a lot of testing, very active, the Trans Am champion.
And look at Earnhardt fly by those cars on the bottom of the racetrack. If he can just get Steve Kinzer right on his back bumper, they might be able to go someplace. Down the straightaway, not able to draft those guys going by, but Earnhardt sneaks back up to the outside once again.
Well, Earnhardt has run high, and he's run low, and he's run in the middle. Benny, it makes me think that, you know, he's preparing himself for what's going to come in that last lap. He wants to be comfortable everywhere on the track.
It also speaks to what Jack Arute mentioned at the start of the show of how much more raceable these cars seem to be. They've really worked on the Dodge Avengers.
This is a titanic struggle among very, very talented and aggressive people. It's terrific racing.
And I think that's the key, Sam. They are very, very talented. Each and every one of these guys has a pass for the lead.
As Earnhardt down on the inside, and he just blows by Al Unser Jr. and almost does it alone. Kenny Schrader got trapped up against the wall, running alongside Pruitt. A few seconds ago, he was up there. I don't think Pruitt had any idea he was there, and he brushed the wall. But once again, we see these Avengers touch the wall, not even slow the car down. Let's go back and take a look at that brush with the wall.
Pruitt and Schrader, and look how close these guys are, and Rusty Wallace backed up in that pale blue car.
Well, Al Unser Jr. has already clinched 5 bonus points for leading the most laps in this race. Question now is, when do you make your move? We put that question to the IROC drivers.
When do you make your move? You make your move right away. You just go ahead and strike in position and get the thing in position, then right there at the very end of the race, you just got to drive defensively.
Anytime you get an opportunity to go to the front, you do it.
A lot of it just comes right down to plain outright luck that you end up at the front of the pack at the right time. You've been to the front, you've been to the back. You just certainly hope that the checker flag falls when you're on that good cycle, when you're at the front of the pack.
I've seen some funky stuff happen in the last couple laps of that race, so I kind of got to get things figured out here.
I really don't believe you're going to want to be out front on the very last lap. I think you're going to get shuffled back. So either you got to do some heavy-duty blocking, or you got to be running second or third to make your move.
The cars draft so well and they're so close. Got to have some help, or if you do have help and the time's there, you know, the opportunity opens up, you just take it.
I equate it to musical chairs. When the music stops, you hope you got a chair that's at the front because it shuffles so much every lap.
A lot said there, and not much of it the truth. Maybe Kendall said it best. Now Al Unser Jr. moves around Earnhardt, and Unser Jr. comes back into the lead, but Earnhardt still sits high, and he's not going to give it up, but he drifts very, very close to that wall. Unser Jr. representing IndyCars back at the front of this IROC field in round one. The battle at the front has closed up again. Al Unser Jr. has top spot now. There you look back from Little Al's car to Earnhardt just behind him.
You know, Junior has not tried as many different variations as Dale Earnhardt has. He's kind of clung to the lead in a fairly simple line, a direct line. Earnhardt's been all over the place. He's been back in the middle of the pack. He's been high, he's been low. He's tried that real low move. Al Unser's just sort of hung on near the front. It'll be really interesting to see what happens as they come down to the last lap, which is coming up very soon.
Ooh, Earnhardt touches the back of Unser's car going in turn 3. That's just to let him know, hey, I'm back here, Al. Don't forget, I'm back here.
Just did send Al Unser Jr. for a little bit of a ride. Pushed him up high and then back down.
Just look at that fence fly by on the left. I mean, these guys are moving 185 miles an hour, maybe a little more in the draft. This is fast.
So at the front right now is Al Unser Jr. being chased by Dale Earnhardt. The final laps are coming up.
ESPN Classics 3 Days of 3 is presented by Martin Scorsese's The Aviator, in theaters everywhere this Christmas.
This holiday, Xbox gives and gives. Get a console with 2 games, EA Sports NCAA Football 2005 and Top Spin, plus 2 months of Xbox Live for $149.99. Rated everyone.
Back at Daytona, round one of the IROC, Al Unser Jr. in front, the defending Indy 500 champion, the defending PPG Cup IndyCar champ. 3 times IndyCar drivers have won the IROC at Daytona. Bobby Unser in 75, Big Al in 86, and Scott Pruitt back in 91.
So only Al Unser Jr. of the real racing Unsers has failed to win here. I'm sure that might be going through his mind.
Now to the waiting game. Who makes their move and where?
But look at that. That's the biggest gap we've seen between first and second. Is it a ploy?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think Earnhardt's trying to get a run. He's lulling Unser into thinking that he's got something, and he's trying to get a run on him down the back.
Look at him close right here. He gets some drafting help, and he just blows by Al Unser Jr. So, Benny, you were exactly right. He was just trying to get a run on him.
He picked up a push from Mark Martin, and it made it work. That's knowledge. That's really subtle thinking by Dale Earnhardt.
See, he's always figuring, how can I win this thing? Not how can I finish first or second. How can I win this thing?
So Earnhardt back at the top, the look from Al Unser Jr. At these cars, which seem to handle either in the draft, out of the draft, they're just handling everywhere.
These cars are all over the racetrack and handling awfully well.
We've seen a lot of good IROC races, but very few with the significance of this, with the IndyCar champion battling the NASCAR champion for the lead.
When Earnhardt moved to the front, that was the 14th lead change in this 100-mile race. Unser Jr. tucked in. As we come to the final lap, did Earnhardt make his move a little too early? Can he hold off Unser Jr.? And what will Mark Martin do? Will he help little Al?
I think that's the key. What will Mark Martin do? He'll help Al Jr. if it helps himself.
2.5 miles to go. Scott Pruitt sits in 4th. He could influence this finish as well.
Al Jr. on the inside. Did he make his move too soon?
Keep your eye on Mark Martin in that blue car, because I think what he does next may be the key.
Might have been a little soon. Let's see. Mark Martin closes in on Earnhardt. Here comes Scott Pruitt, has no choice. He sits up behind Martin. Down the back straightaway for the final time. Al Unser Jr. comes low.
They're halfway around the lap right now.
Oh! Al Unser Jr. catches the wall. Earnhardt goes into the lead.
Some contact as Earnhardt was trying to go by on the outside. Meanwhile, here they come, Scott Pruitt trying to take the lead.
Yellow and checker comes out together as they cross the line with Earnhardt holding off Al Unser Jr. with his accident and Scott Pruitt in second place. Unser Jr. climbs out unhurt. He had the lead going down the back straightaway and then bumped off the right into the wall.
And he does not look happy.
I knew the train would be coming, so I was going down the back stretch trying to guess which way they were going to go, if they were going to pass me on the inside or the low side, and just try to get the car directly in front of them so that they hit me square. And, you know, he faked low and went high, and by the time I got mine up high, he hit my my corner, my right rear corner, and that spun me this direction, and that was it.
That's just one of them things, though, that, I mean, we were drafting right back up to him, Mark and I, and we were going to go one way or another, and he ought to knew that. He knew that, really, and we'd done it lap after lap, and just wasn't no room. We got there, and he kept coming over and pinched me into the wall. Instead of getting pinched into the wall, I come back to the left.
Does that take a little bit of the exuberance out of this victory lane for you?
Yeah, it's not fun with my wrecks.